Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode in a very long time of TTV Talks. How long has it been since we last did one of these? And I say we like either of you have actually ever been on one before.
Yeah, probably a couple of years, right?
More than a couple. I'm Takuma.
I'm Starbreaker.
And I'm Sokoda.
And this is TTV Talks about the KOTOR remake.
Oh,
So why-
KOTOR.
So why are we doing this? Why revive a long dead series? Do we even call it long dead? Just cancel? I don't know. We haven't done TTV Talks in forever, and now we're doing this. Is it just because we're that big of a nerds of KOTOR that we need an outlet?
Well,
I just like Star Wars, man.
They revived an old game, so we had to revive an old podcast.
I was
You know
a
what?
child when I played this game last, and
Sure.
I feel like that warrants paying special attention to something from that era for me.
So, for those out there who have maybe heard that it's going to be a remake but never played the original game, what is KOTOR about? Who wants to kind of give the synopsis, the setup, the text on the back of the case?
I can kind of do it. It's like
I honestly wish I had the back of the case so I could just read it right now.
yeah. I mean, it's basically a Star Wars game from 2003, right? Yeah.
2003.
And it's set 4,000 years before the movies. It's about the era of the Old Republic and the Old Sith, and it's a fun Star Wars adventure game where you explore the galaxy, fight the dark side. Pretty much what you want in a Star Wars game.
And it's an RPG.
Yep.
And
I I really, really realized that I think a lot of the gameplay aspects of KOTOR got me into a lot of what I ended up getting into later in terms of gaming.
right, because it's a D20 system under the hood, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's most comparable to like 3rd edition D&D, if I had to guess.
I don't really know, but yeah, it's pretty much a D&D game.
I'd say that's
Star
probably
Wars Code of
It's
Kingdom.
Star Wars D&D. Just all the dice rolls are typically hidden in a menu. You have to go and look up if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Star Wars RPG. Back in the Old Republic. Before the Rule of Two, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
that's something you don't even necessarily think about. It's like, yeah, when we're talking about the old Sith, we're not even talking about like a bunch of dudes running around with lightsabers. We're talking about like
Yeah.
an empire
Whole,
with
like
foot
enemy
soldiers and
race
stuff.
and foot soldiers and wow, there's so much to like the lore of this time period in Star Wars too. This is something that I'm weren't there rumors going around of like the next Star Wars movie trilogy going to be like KOTOR era or something?
I've not heard such thing. If anything, I would expect it to be in this whole High Republic thing that they've been doing lately.
They've been doing High
which-
Republic in publishing
Gotcha.
books and comics. That's
I'm
like a
not even
completely
gonna-
different era. It's like way later. The Old Republic's kind of still going with the MMO. I don't.
But at this point, it's all like, what are they referring to the non-canon old stuff now? Is it Legends?
Yeah, it's all
that
Legends right now,
Yeah.
except for like some small references that kind of made it into the TV shows and movies.
I guess it's honestly a smart play there if they really wanted to like do a complete new story, but still like cherry pick stuff that they know the fans want to keep around. So
Yeah,
And I mean, yeah, there's got to be a reason that, they're doing a remake instead of, say, an entirely new game set in the High Republic.
yeah,
that is true. That is very true.
It could just be because money, but,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people say KOTOR is like one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars game of all time. I feel like having KOTOR on the box is probably some safe money.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've that recent Star Wars game that came out. The name of it's slipping my mind. Is the one
Jedi
where you play
Jedi Fallen
Jedi Order, right? Or followed. Yeah, that a lot of people I have heard compared that game to KOTOR.
Really?
Not in terms of gameplay, but in terms of like just the like what they expect out of a Star Wars game in terms of just like a phenomenal experience.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, because you're going
on a
from
whole
planet
level.
to planet on a
Yeah.
mission, and it's not necessarily like
it's just
main
like
storyline stuff.
your single player Star Wars story game, which we didn't have for a long time before Jedi Fallen Order.
True.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you talked about playing it when you were a kid. What was kind of your first exposure to of KOTOR?
Well, it was summer. My brother and I recently got access to. I guess my dad upgraded to the first generation Xbox 360 at the time, and was like, "Here you go, boys." My little brother and we got access to his classic Xbox. We happened to be at a yard sale, and someone was selling their Xbox games. Got KOTOR for a whopping, it's like $5-10, something like that.
Sure.
It was Star Wars. I thought it was gonna be cool and fun, and so I wanted to give it a try. And I remember being very enamored, despite the fact that I could not make it out of like the second area. Like, it just being in the Star Wars universe in a game was something that was exciting to me, because I grew up loving Star Wars so much. And aside from that, my only other experience with Star Wars in a game form had been Lego Star Wars, which, I mean, that's fun and all, but it's definitely nowhere near the same experience.
Yeah. Especially when you're talking about an RPG, when you can actually...
Oh, heck yeah.
When you're thinking more specifically Western RPGs, where it's kind of like, this can be me, so to speak.
Yeah.
This can be my expression.
That was one of the things that was crazy to me, because that was a completely foreign concept to me at the time. It was always like, you boot up the game, you're the main character, but you're controlling this preset avatar, the Mario, the Master Chief, whoever else. You're never the main character yourself. So the fact that there was like, I can look different, I can equip what I can choose. that was something that was really exciting to me at the time, and fueled a future love for games that did something similar.
Yeah, it's what got me my love of RPGs for sure.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you, Sokoda? What was your inauguration, so to speak?
I got into KOTOR in a very weird way, I think. I played the MMO first, so Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I played that for a while, and I got to... There's one specific quest in the MMO, I won't spoil anything, but it has like some references to characters from Knights of the Old Republic. So I did some research on that, and I found out, hey, there's a completely another game about all that stuff, and then
You didn't even know KOTOR existed!
I kind of knew it existed, but I never, I didn't really know what it was about, so I got into it via the MMO that introduced me to KOTOR, and then I got pretty obsessed with KOTOR 1 and 2.
Like, on the one hand, that sounds just so kind of off the wall to me. On the other hand, I really gotta wonder how many people that's true for.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people know SWTOR nowadays more than KOTOR, especially like with their cinematics and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I feel like the KOTOR characters are still more iconic in a way.
I mean, like me, I never really played the Old Republic just because MMOs aren't really my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm feeling articulate today. No, so I didn't play KOTOR until 2008. I'm gonna say, which is 5 years after it came out, and that was when I got my first gaming laptop, or my first laptop of any kind, really, to be fair. But I remember, seeing the case where it's like Best of Star Wars for PC. It was like $20. And in it, there was, let me see, it was Battlefront 1, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, Republic Commando, what was the RTS one?
That was Empire at War?
Oh.
Empire at War, right. I was like, Star Wars Galaxies? No, that's not the one. Empire at War, and then, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, it was just the fact that it had the first Battlefront on it, which I played on like a PlayStation 2 at my cousin's house and really was a big fan of. But also, like, I had heard that KOTOR is like the greatest Star Wars game of all time, so I gotta try it. And actually, what happened was, so I booted up the game and I started playing it, and like I'd not played many games of this sort of length before. But I mean, truth be told, like it was only like my second or third session with the game, and I'd gone for like an hour or so without saving, and the game crashed on me.
Oh no!
And it was just like, I just went through a whole hour. It was so demotivating that I didn't pick it up again for months.
Oh.
Because, I mean, let's be fair, you're still on Taurus at that point, and if there's one thing that's, I think, kind of universally acknowledged, that the whole first world is kind of meh. Like, there's definitely some stuff you can do and whatnot, but nothing I had done up to that point was very captivating, where I was like, oh yeah, this is why it's the greatest game of all time. It was like, just kind of like,
it gets a lot more.
It's kind of cool, but yeah, so like, I think I actually put it down, and I think I played like all the way through maybe both Jedi Outcast and Republic Commando before I picked up KOTOR again. But then when I finally was like, okay, it's I'll just, sooner or later, it's either I don't play this again or I just replay through that part. But so I picked it up again, and I played through all of Terrace and just kind of like, yeah, I guess I'm having fun. Once I hit Dantooine, once I hit the second world, that was when I was like, oh my gosh, this was the best thing ever. Like, I could not put down the game after that. It was just so cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now we're getting a remake. Not just a remaster, but a remake.
I am intrigued because my memories of the game are basically limited to the little bit that I did when I was a kid, and then what I saw from watching relatives of mine play through the game. The things that most vibrantly stick out in my mind were wandering back and forth in like the first planet area you go to, Terrace. I remember wandering back and forth, wondering what I'm supposed to be doing because of how much walking there was. I remember the excitement of getting the droid.
Oh, that's
because having a droid was something that always appealed to me. I when I was a kid,
We're talking T3 or HK?
No, he probably means the other one.
I don't remember. I legitimately don't remember. When I was a kid, like just the thought of having my own droid was something that was thrilling and exciting to me. So just getting, I was super excited about that. But the thing that has like to this day stuck with me as the most memorable thing was the intro sequence. Like when you wake up for the first time.
Sure.
And the exposition dump character that comes to greet he is fresh in my mind. He is the most memorable character, specifically because it's like, hey, we're under attack, we gotta go. What? You don't remember who you are? Oh, perfect, I've got a 20-page essay right here. Perfect for new players like you. Let me lay it out as our crewmates are getting slaughtered alive and we're being boarded. Like,
and also, he's breaking the fourth wall to tell you about like your inventory key.
I'm sorry, but Trasgulgo is the most powerful Star Wars character ever because he knows he's in a game and he knows where to click for the menu.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they had to kill him, because he knew too much.
Yeah.
Oh man, just the fact that he spends like so much time dumping this information at you, and then you get through it. He's like, "Okay, bye, I'm dead now." Like. That to me is like the most memorable part of the game. And granted, I know I didn't get very far myself, but I still just chuckle thinking about, especially because the dialogue delivery sounded so scripted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's straight up reading off of a teleprompter. So,
like, on the whole, I'd say the voice acting is pretty good in the game. But
yes, 100%,
it's really good.
But that opening sequence there, that was where I think the only place I think at it was like, okay, they're reading a script. I am personally torn because when they do this remake, I would both love that goofy bit of that intro sequence to stay the same, but also want to see it like spruced up to be something different. I can't decide which one I want more. Because the thought of
it's kind of like the so bad it's good piece of the intro is
absolutely.
It's so iconic. How can you? And it's like you could quote unquote improve it, but then it would lose what makes it so terrible and so good.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, Trasgulgo is kind of like a fan favorite / meme at this point. So
I mean, who knows if he's even going to be in it?
That is true.
They have to put him in it.
If they don't, I'm going to be upset. But
they have to make it like all his scenes like super dramatic.
Yeah. That's the thing is he's the tutorial character.
Yeah.
Exposition dump and tutorial. And if they completely rework the way the tutorial goes, they might not need him. I don't know. Before we get too far off into the weeds of what might be, what do we know so far other than it's going to be a thing? And I think the answer is not much.
Not a lot. We got like
I personally haven't seen anything other than it's going to be a thing.
Did you see the
trailer?
Teaser trailer?
No, I saw a news article about it. I have not seen the trailer. I probably should have watched that.
You're not missing a whole lot. It's mostly just it's mostly just Darth Revan standing there menacingly with a voiceover by Bastila.
Yeah, we have a voiceover by Bastila, and then
which is still Jennifer Hale.
Which is still Jennifer Hale, but it's a new voice line, so it's nothing from the original game.
Interesting. So that's good that they got the same voice actress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, we have a new logo, which looks pretty clean. And
did the logo actually look different? I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's a lot more like streamlined, I guess, but it looks really like nice and I'd say modern.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, obviously Jennifer Hale's back, so that's great. We're getting a remake. It's being done by, how do you pronounce it? Aspire?
Aspire. Yeah.
Oh, Aspire. That's actually a word that exists. Aspire. Okay.
Yeah.
When they spell words weird, like you don't know how they're supposed to be pronounced. What have they done in the past? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting topic because this is like the first big project of Aspire.
It seems like they've largely been working on ports.
Yeah, they do a lot of ports. They do a lot of like porting things to mobile or to modern consoles, and they've done that like especially with Star Wars games in the last couple of years, like Republic Commando, Jedi Outcast, KOTOR for mobile. They did that, and now that's like their first big budget project, from what I've heard.
It's not BioWare who did the first KOTOR, and it's not Obsidian who did KOTOR 2. It's someone completely different, which is
interesting. But what they said in an interview is that they have a lot of ex-BioWare like people on their team now, even some people who worked on the original KOTOR, which is pretty
cool.
interesting.
Because I mean, like, let's be honest. If they had said that BioWare was doing it again, I don't know about this.
According to this, it says that they actually worked on the re-releases of Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that they have experience with Star Wars titles in the past. I'm wondering if maybe other studios weren't available and this was chosen because of their prior experience with Star Wars, or if it was something that was like you guys are going to be the main go-to for it.
There were actually a while back some rumors that BioWare wanted to do a KOTOR remake a while ago, but EA said they couldn't do it. I don't know how true that is, but I can kind of see that. Yeah.
I mean,
but
BioWare's not doing so hot lately anyway.
And I think the timing of this is not coincidental, because next year I think EA's exclusivity for Star Wars games runs out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So which is
honestly, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, which is why a lot of Star Wars games are like announced right now. So
sure, get it while the getting's good.
Yeah.
Because I know, yeah. Who knows if they're going to renegotiate or what, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, yeah, remember how that whole Battlefront 2 thing went?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe we give someone else a shot. But...
From the looks of it, like, LucasArts, Lucasfilm. I don't know the exact wording. I think it's Lucasfilm Games.
Yeah, the games are LucasArts.
Yeah, I think they're called Lucasfilm Games now, and they're like a subdivision. But I don't know
because like LucasArts is just publishing now instead of an actual like game developer. Which don't even
and they are working like with a whole bunch of like video game companies together now to make Star Wars games, so there won't be any exclusivity to one anymore.
Nice. Which, actually, on that note, that is one other thing we know about the remake. PS5 exclusive and PC, which I don't know if that means PS5 only for a little while and then PC, or if it just means not Xbox and Switch, or...
What they said, and it's like, I've been kind of following it a bit, and it's a bit, like, they are not very clear about it all. They said it's console launch exclusive for the PS5, which like most people interpret as it will come out on the PS5 and on PC, and then later on someday on the Xbox.
Sure. So maybe a timed exclusive.
Yeah, it's apparently it's a timed exclusive.
Yeah, from what I heard, I don't know how accurate it is. It was supposed to be like it launches on PS5, gets on PC, and then 1 year later it ends up available to other platforms.
I can see that.
Which, I mean, as far as... What's that?
Yeah, so the only thing we actually have like confirmed at this point is that it will be on PS5 and PC. And yeah.
Uh-huh.
At this point, my biggest question is just, is there a lag time between those? Which... I am honestly not sure whether, like, because I'm, hashtag PC Master Race all the way. But even if they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be on the PS5 for a while first, depending on how long that is, I might not even care just because, again, I think we're all kind of like, this could be great or this could be bad. And I would not mind it being out on the PS5 for a little while so that we can figure out whether or not it's going to be good or bad.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I mean, exclusivity is never like a good thing for consumers.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's anti-consumer and inherently.
Yeah, so but I want to get it on PC too. I hope it comes out the same day. If it's like a month later or something, I don't really care. I know the story of KOTOR. It's not like I'm afraid of spoilers.
Mm-hmm. Like I think if it were like more than 3 to 6 months, that'd be the point where I start going, come on.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the 3 to 6 months mark, I'm probably like, yeah, I'm fine, just kind of, waiting for reviews and what people say about it so I can inform myself on whether or not I even want to buy it, or if I just be like, maybe I don't ruin my childhood. Well, I guess technically it's not my childhood since I played it when I was 18, but my past.
Yeah, for me personally, I originally played the game on the classic Xbox, so I am a little sad that it is not going to be on the Xbox for an indeterminate amount of time, if ever. So, if I do pick it up, I don't have a PS5, so I'm not going to be getting it on PS5. I'm always really saddened when game titles are like, oh, it's going to launch on this first, and everyone else has to wait a little bit. Like, I understand what they're trying to do there. Is like,
they're trying to make money.
Apparently get our console. That way you can do things like when it's hot and fresh. But man, does that just kill my desire to even look into those consoles.
It's very demotivating.
Apparently, they got a lot of help and funding from Sony, which in a way you could say, okay, maybe it helps the game.
That's fair.
PS exclusive.
It's a way to kind of give back, so to speak.
But also, it's like it's really weird that the original KOTOR was like one of the biggest Xbox exclusives of all time, and now the remake is a PS exclusive. It's a really weird situation.
It's payback for the Bethesda situation.
Sure, that. I mean, and maybe this is just me, but it's kind of my understanding in the past so many years that the PlayStation has just kind of gotten a reputation for being the single-player games machine, so to speak.
Not
to say that Xbox is the multiplayer one, in opposition to it. I think they're both kind of equally probably multiplayer, but it seems like if you're into big AAA single player, those tend to go to PlayStation.
The story games are often on the PlayStation, that's true.
Yeah, their reputation seems to go. Nintendo has the handheld, the PlayStation has the single player story games, and Xbox is for the shooters and party lobbies. That's at least
And the
what
5-year-olds on Xbox Live that say unsavory things about your family.
My goodness, I have thankfully had so few experiences in that regard.
Oh boy. But it is a little weird at this that's PlayStation PC because like I feel like
strange.
it's a pretty well known fact that like porting something from Xbox to PC or vice versa is much easier than porting something to or from the PlayStation to anything else.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, if Aspire's whole thing up to now has been doing ports, maybe they're just the right people for it. Who knows?
I'm just really happy it will be on PC.
Yeah. If they came out and said that it was only going to be on consoles, I would have thrown a fit.
Oh, if they came out and was like, "Yep, it's going to be a PS5 exclusive," I don't think I would have even like. I would have been severely disappointed because I definitely think it would be cool to have a PS5, but I am by no means financially capable of obtaining one presently. Yeah. And while they do have a lot of really cool titles, the way I enjoy stories is just experiencing the stories, so I have zero problem getting access to that story through other means. Like,
watching other people
play. Yeah.
Something like that, watching like a cutscene compilation or like I typically like going through with a no commentary playthrough first and then swap over to maybe like someone I like who plays through the game or a family member or whatever. I'll watch it then, but I don't know. The whole console exclusive thing, that's definitely a topic for its own video, but man, it drives me up the wall thinking about it sometimes.
Yeah. And, maybe it plays into, I feel like PC is making a little bit of a comeback these days. I'm not going to act like we're going through an entire renaissance, but it seems like there's more stuff that's being, brought out on PC that maybe wouldn't have ever seen PC or something like that. I mean, things like the Steam Deck being introduced. It's I feel like it's 100%. Kind of making a soft comeback.
Even like the Xbox like Game Pass type thing, where now I can't remember exactly what part it was, but the fact that you can play Xbox titles on your PC without actually needing to own an Xbox, that to me is huge. I love that idea, especially because I've got a lot of friends who stick with their PC because they can't keep up with console upgrades, and to be frank, I don't think I can either.
That's the other thing. Like, so the PC, fact that you can update pieces as you go, and you don't really have to worry about the whole backwards compatibility thing. At least not to the degree of consoles usually.
Yeah, and also a big thing for PC. I'm excited maybe for the KOTOR remake is modding. Because there's a lot of cool mods for the original KOTOR.
So that we can download the most popular mod at all, Skip Taurus. Which, maybe that's an entry point into kind of like talking about the, what we kind of want, what we kind of expect, and like...
Real quick, there are some little more things we already know about the remake.
Ooh, is there something I missed?
We already know, like, Jennifer Hale's back, of course, and they said they want to get as many of the original voice actors as possible and stick pretty close to the original story, from what they said. They also said it's, like, completely built from the ground up, and apparently they have a budget of 70 million and Aspire, so
that's a lot of money.
It's a pretty high budget remake.
Sure. I mean, there's almost a little bit of a question of kind of how far they go with this. Like, is it remake where it's just kind of like we revamp systems and and all that, but like the core of it's not much different, or is it closer to like the Final Fantasy VII remake was, where it's pretty much an entirely different beast?
Yeah, I'd personally assume it's more like the Final Fantasy remake because it's
something in the middle. I think would be good.
Yeah, probably.
I think they're gonna probably play it safer than not and try to, at least story-wise, keep it as close to the original as possible without without making it just like a copy and paste experience, but something I do think that we are going to see is something that Fallen Order did really well was its different planet environments and landscapes, stuff like that. I think that we're going to see the same KOTOR we know and love, but massively visually overhauled to definitely be on par, if not exceed, these visually stunning Star Wars experiences we've already had so far.
Yeah, I don't expect
very excited for that.
I
don't expect to walk into any map and being like, I already know where everything is.
Yeah.
100%.
Probably not. Maybe the Evanhawk.
Yeah, okay, there's that. I imagine that maybe would be a little bit bigger, but hopefully the layout is relatively the same, because otherwise,
I'm sure
riot.
Yeah, I'm sure general layout of even like probably some locations is going to be generally the same, but I'm sure like the scope of what you could explore, the like just the general size of the areas is likely going to increase. That would definitely be fascinating to see.
Yeah, the story is honestly the part I'm most concerned about, is whether or not they're going to try and change to, like, I can definitely understand updating some things, maybe adding additional side quests or making things more of a, but it's like, I just won't want them to try and, well, I don't even know how to describe it. Not like over modernize is not the right word for it, I think, but I don't want them to reinvent characters or anything like that.
Yeah, especially like the main characters. I get that. Yeah. What I think is the big thing that might affect the story is if they wanna make it canon in the new Star Wars canon or not. Because
that'll be interesting. I feel like a lot of revisions will probably go towards making it canon. That's a very good point.
I don't know how much you even have to change.
I'm gonna say
how far back it's set. I think there are some things that kind of like break the rules Star Wars has established. But
really,
yeah. We could maybe talk about spoilers later.
Sure,
but
I guess now that we're already this far in, we should probably establish, like, at least starting out, we're going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible.
Yeah.
We probably should have front-loaded that little message.
Yeah, but we're probably just going to later on say, okay, from now on, we're going to get in spoilers.
Yeah. Once we get towards the end, then we might.
Yeah.
With a warning. But, yeah. So do we want to talk, like, mechanics? Because, as we established before, the original KOTOR 1 and 2 were basically D&D Star Wars. Yeah. Like, it was a D20 system where your 6 stats were wisdom, charisma, intelligence, strength, dexterity, and constitution. You had saving throws. There was, even though you never saw any dice rolls unless you went to a specific menu that's like a combat log or something, you never actually saw those in action. But everything under the hood was a D20 system.
Yeah.
Do we think they're going to keep that? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Old Republic MMO does not run on that kind of system.
No, the Old Republic MMO pretty much runs like on your typical MMO tab targeting system.
I would be interested to see if they do.
I don't personally think they will.
I don't either. I feel like they're going to come up with some other system.
I feel like they're going to have like something more mainstream action combat system,
maybe something closer, like a Mass Effect or whatever. But
like,
I
maybe even a couple of people like saying like something like the Final Fantasy remake too. I'd be interested how they handle the whole like companion thing and switching between characters.
Right, because for the most part in the original KOTOR, depending on where you were, you could switch companions at any time, unless it was, like, prohibited by story. Like, if you didn't have access to your ship where everyone else was waiting, you couldn't switch.
And like, most of the time, you played a party of, like, 3 characters, and you switched between them and planned out their actions. And if you have, like, like, in the original KOTOR, you could just always pause the fight and plan things through.
Yeah, it was turn-based combat.
Yeah, if they do like action combat, that's kind of like maybe hard to do.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I wonder if they will do something like a hybrid between the two, maybe.
Which again is kind of what Final Fantasy did, right?
I think that's
it's
what they did.
I know you can technically play that completely turn-based, but yeah, not to keep coming back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I mean, it's a recently remade RPG of an old classic.
Yeah,
so,
with a turn-based combat system.
If they end up rehauling the combat system, it does leave room for some extra stuff. Like, I know that the Doom and Doom Eternal games have Easter eggs to like have things like you have access to classic style levels. I'm wondering, and there's other games that do this too, where you'll access like a computer terminal or something, and the gameplay inside the computer terminal mini game is exactly like the original game. If they end up overhauling the combat mechanics, I would personally like to see an Easter egg like that thrown in there.
Sure. How different do we think the combat could potentially be? Because, again, D&D system, it largely just comes down to automated dice rolls, and you if you want to, you could honestly like let a combat run itself and not have any influence, but usually you're like picking certain attacks or whatever.
Yeah, you're just planning out your attacks and then...
Which kind of in that vein, one thing I will say is OG KOTOR, Dark Side OP.
Yeah, Force Lightning.
Yeah. Like, I played through the game, I'm going to say probably like 5 full runs with a smattering of other runs I never finished. And I think I can, I specifically remember my first Dark Side run after I'd done like a Light Side run and just being like, whoa, combat is stupid easy when you have access to Dark Side Force powers.
Well, you see, Takuma, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities.
Right. Which, to be fair, that did seem actually a little bit on brand.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's super easy so long as you do all the bad things. But then again, it feels like I don't want to feel like playing the dark side is quote-unquote the optimal build. Which, spoiler alert, you get Force powers in the game. If anyone didn't see that coming, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. The first time I played the game through, it was light side. Second time, it was dark side, and I did it for like completeness sake. But I was definitely finished that run. I was like, man, I feel so guilty now. I don't know if I'm ever going to do that again.
I feel like, but with the combat system, there aren't really that many turn-based D&D kind of games nowadays anymore, especially like not big budget games. So I kind of doubt they'd risk that with like an expensive remake like this. So I kind of think it might be just a completely different combat system.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Redoing the combat, and in that same vein, I have to imagine we're going to see the Force powers, and it's going to be like a good number carried over. I imagine there's some we probably won't see, not that I have an idea of what those would be, and a host of new powers. That's just kind of me guessing based on like what you would do with a remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine on top of new powers and stuff, there's also going to be new dialogue options.
Oh yeah,
talking with other characters.
Complete overhauls of conversations I'm expecting.
Yeah, I could see them especially like do different choices, maybe like more different endings. Depending on choices. I think like the original KOTOR, it's also like one of those memes that all the aliens have like repeating voice lines. And I think they did that back then because of like the space they had on the disc. So I assume nowadays...
I've got the original PC version of KOTOR 2, and that sucker has like 4 DVDs in it. Yeah. 4 or 5, I don't even remember.
I'd assume nowadays like they'll probably add even more like voice acting.
And now you can play KOTOR on your phone.
Some of the aliens and...
How far we've come.
Yeah.
But... Yeah. Yeah, I just fully expect an overhaul to just how combat works and how Force powers work. Because I don't know about you guys, but pure, like, the healing power was like the first thing I picked up as soon as you could get it, because when you were outside of combat, you could just spam that until you were fully healed. The only downside was you had to wait for your force points to regenerate every time you did it.
Yeah, then you just pick a full party of Jedi.
And then it's like, you never need another med kit for the rest of the game. Also, that's the other thing, is you had different kinds of characters who each had their own kinds of classes and specials and abilities and stuff, but largely it was like, you go with a full party of Jedi.
Yeah, they're way more powerful. Yeah.
So hopefully they balance characters out better. That's not to say that I actually went with a full party of Jedi usually, because I mean, come on, some of these other characters, HK-47. Trying to think of.
Canderous.
There's Canderous. Bastila.
Zalbar.
I don't think I ever really played with Zalbar much, save for, like, his, I guess your equivalent would be companion mission, loyalty mission, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Back before Mass Effect was a thing, which, being realistic, you could kind of say that KOTOR was, the granddaddy of Mass Effect.
It totally was. Like, BioWare did Mass Effect because they wanted their own franchise that's, like, independent from Star Wars after
KOTOR is great, but let's drop the Star Wars piece.
Yeah.
And still keep it a 3-character party system with loyalty quests and RPG and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fully expected.
What do you think they might introduce some of the content that was cut from the original KOTOR?
That's a good question.
Because
what was cut from the first one? I know the second one had a lot cut.
Yeah, the second one had a lot. The first one they planned to have another planet, which is called Slayharon.
I don't
it's
remember
kind of
this.
Reference in some quests, they reference the planet, and apparently it was another planet they wanted to have in the game. And there's also
I do remember
side quests that kind of end like nowhere.
Yeah. Now that you mention that, I do remember that there's one. I don't remember if it was like a planet or more like a satellite station or what, but it was like a place that's little more than a shop, a special shop.
Yeah, the Yavin 4 space station.
Yeah, and so like you go there, it's kind of like a shop of some rare type stuff, and there's very little story-wise that happens with it. I want to say there was supposed to be more that happened there, though.
No, that one was a DLC. The Yavin station.
Oh, that's right.
So that I don't think there was any more planned for that, but yeah, there is some stuff that got cut from the original, and I could really see them reintroduce that maybe in the remake or add completely new stuff.
Definitely. I mean, who knows how much they'll add? Other than like I'm fully expecting more side quests.
100%.
Yeah, it'd be cool to get another planet entirely. The only caveat to that being, what are they going to do with it, and is it going to feel like it fits in with this remake of an old classic? And then there's just all like... What's that?
I was just going to say, like, if they add a whole nother planet, like, there is so much potential there for...
Mm-hmm.
Inserting you could insert like a completely original slew of side stories, but it will definitely be tricky working an entire planet into like a main existing story unless they want to shake up some events from that story to maybe space it out to different areas or have.
I mean, you could.
There's a lot of ways that they could go about it, but
you could make a relatively minor tweak to the story and just say there's +1 MacGuffin to get over what the first game had. Right? But I not thought about this. Companion characters, do we think that they're going to add any additional ones that weren't in the first game? I feel like that would be a risky move, but not something that would be out of the question for them to try.
There is someone I could see, but maybe for the spoilers.
Stress. They find him alive.
That would be cool.
But he's a pre-order bonus.
Oh no!
Yikes!
I could definitely see them adding new companion characters. I wonder would probably stray away from existing notable characters from the story and do maybe perhaps original characters.
Something completely new.
Yeah, because that way you're playing it safe with what's already there, but also potentially adding something that could become a new fan favorite without the consequence of potential backlash.
Yeah.
Because you do a fan favorite character wrong, and people are gonna scream about it. But if it's something that's never before seen, never done before, with a character that has potential for fans of the game to just fall in love with, then that's that right there is a very safe route that I could definitely see them going. Because then if you just don't like the character, you don't play with them. You don't you don't care, you don't use them. So
I could also see them like giving you temporary companions or like single quests, for example, and just
sure, like a guest companion, so to speak.
Like kind of like Trask is, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose it would kind of depend on what sort of gap are they looking to fill in with. Because again, we're thinking it's probably going to be completely different mechanics. But like, if you look at the original companion character, how many? There was 9 of them, right?
Yep. The companion
and so
has 9 characters.
Like, if you think of all the different character classes, like there's 3 Jedi classes, 3 non-Jedi classes, 2 droid classes.
Yep.
So that brings us to 8?
Yeah.
Who am I forgetting? Because I feel like each of them feels like, because I'm pretty sure we had
probably like Stalbar left, right? Or
well, let me see. So the 3 Jedi classes are Sentinel, Counselor, and Knight, which is basically skills, force, and like hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
And then the 2 droid classes are like Utility Droid, Assassin Droid, and then the non-Jedi classes are Scout, Scoundrel, and Soldier.
Yeah.
Which Soldier is kind of like your weapons and attack class. Scout is like your stealth. I always felt like Scout and Scoundrel had a certain degree of overlap.
Yeah. And
Scoundrel had like the sneak attack type stuff, so I guess that's closest to your rogue. I'm not really sure what you call a Scout. But like, I suppose both Karth and Canderous were probably soldier types, weren't they?
Yeah, I think.
I was like, I know there's something's got to be doubled up on. One of these classes has to be. So yeah, I guess if they introduce a new character, do we think there's a specific slot it would be trying to fit in? Not necessarily thinking too hard about OG classes that may not be a thing.
I guess that depends on how many new characters that they want to introduce, because it depends. It also depends on if they want to introduce new classes, or how they want to go about the class system in general.
Yeah, and one companion character more is not an insignificant investment. That's a whole bunch of voice lines you have to record. If they have special abilities of their own, that's even more programming and balancing work on that front. Like,
and they
I have to feel if they were going to add more characters, it would be more 2, since we already have 9.
Yeah, I kind of like wouldn't even want them to add more characters to like the main crew, because the main crew is kind of iconic.
Yeah, I really don't see them adding anything to kind of bog up the main story, but I do definitely see them trying to add some allure to side quest type stuff. I feel like that is where you're going to get stuff where they kind of poke outside of the box and try something new to make this remake stand aside from the original. Something to give it that extra pizzazz and wow factor aside from, it's HD now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess honestly something I'd like to see them do is beef up the companion missions more.
Yeah.
Because largely it's like mostly it comes down to just like talk to them every so often when they have more exposition they want to dump on you, and then maybe it climaxes in a fight or something like that, but it doesn't get that involved. I'd like to see those a lot more fleshed out.
It's also a bit imbalanced. Like Karth and Bastila are pretty good story wise, but like other characters like Juhani or Mission don't have that much.
Yeah. And then HKs is just a kind of different
HK is just
thing
a
altogether,
droid,
because
but-
that's basically just a series of skill checks.
Yeah.
So it's basically
Yeah.
just like, am I building my character with high enough stats in the right places to get his?
Get some
it's not
extra
even really a
story.
mission.
Yeah.
It's not like you go anywhere and do anything. It's just every once in a while he's like, oh, I've recovered more of my memory. Which, don't get me wrong, those sorts of things are the reason why my favorite class to play as was the Sentinel, because hey, all the skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to see them flesh out companions and companion missions and story more.
Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely.
I do think that if they do add any new side characters, and I do think that if it's not just going to be one, they're probably going to be multiple if they decide to add any. One of them, I am betting with absolute certainty, will be a droid, because one, droids are easy to make as extra side characters, don't require voice acting, etc., etc.
I suppose.
I mean,
if you
It's
go-
HK does.
It's a very
but-
safe and easy play to.
oh yeah, I
just-
guess it depends on whether it's
Okay.
a protocol droid that speaks or if it's a utility, astromech,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That just is beeps and boops you can repeat.
Yeah. Something I definitely also expect to see is character customization. I expect we're probably going to see a pretty substantial overhaul to how you can make your character and or party look, and what kind of stuff they can take with them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're...
I mean, the first game,
that's
you get a
exciting to
selection
think
of
about.
like a dozen heads to
Yeah.
choose from, and that's it. You can't like change hair pieces and different
no.
chins or different facial hair. It's like, nope, you got about a dozen presets. Pick one.
Here's one thing I wonder. Is that like, are they, if they want to introduce it into canon, will they define like a canon version of the game?
I mean, a canon version of KOTOR 1 and 2 does exist, actually.
It did exist before they like declared all of it legends, but yeah.
Internal canon to KOTOR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be that in the first game, the
Light
main
side
character is a
male.
guy,
Yeah.
and the second game, the main character is a girl.
Yeah.
Internal to KOTOR, that is canon. And I guess technically both of them would probably be light side.
Yeah, both of them light side in canon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're going to take away the
Yeah, I hope they don't take away the option
RPG aspect.
to go dark side or the opposite gender.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to take that away, because that was part of why the game was so enjoyable to a lot of people. It's just the element of choice
Yeah.
is something that is so desirable in games like that. And if they took that away, that'd be just shooting themselves in the foot right there. So
yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
I don't see them changing that in any capacity other than giving you more options for choice. But I think for the sake of, if they want to incorporate it into canon in any shape or form, they're probably going to go the same route of
Yeah.
having
Preparing.
the canon version is this character is like this,
Yeah.
and this is what the route they took.
Yeah. Like, I imagine there's still to be a quote-unquote canon version, just not one that you're, like, forced into.
The game.
It does
Yeah.
beg the question, though. In both games, you picked a preset head, you picked whether you're a dude or chick, but you were always human in both games.
Yeah.
Do we think they allow for you to play as like a Rhodian or something instead? Like, do you get to pick a different race?
That would be interesting.
I think a lot of
And
people
also-
would like it. There
And
are a lot
also,
of
is it
mods for
mechanical
that.
benefit or is it just cosmetic?
I feel like if they stick very close to the original story, it would turn into a problem on Terrace, where like aliens aren't allowed in the upper city.
Right.
Um,
Because certain aliens
True.
are. I mean, it could potentially even be an interesting point of like, oh, here's
Yeah.
where something can change in a playthrough. I don't see it being that prohibitive.
yeah, in the
I could
in-
see it being a Skyrim scenario in which the race you choose gives you different dialogue options,
Yeah.
or even certain
Yeah.
like quest
Different
alternative
starting
outcomes.
they
dispositions.
even did that
Yeah.
in SWTOR in the MMO, because there you can play as some different alien races, and there's different dialogue options and different conversations if you play as an alien.
That would be fascinating.
Of course, the follow-up question to that is, in the KOTOR 1 and 2, your character, for the most part, was not voiced.
Yeah.
And introducing other races, especially if it's, we know that some of the alien races can speak. What's the technical term? Galactic Basic?
Galactic Basic. I want to play as a Hutt, so, no.
Well, we know that Hutts can speak Basic.
Yeah.
Ithorians can if they have, a voice translator thing.
Yeah, they're wearing have, an apparatus in some Star Wars media.
Yeah, but then if they do they still pick a preset selection of voices that just goes across all races or yeah.
I imagine how it'll go is you'll still have your character will still speak Galactic Basic regardless, but they'll probably pick races that are very clearly, obviously capable of doing that without any kind of extra anything.
Yeah, so probably not playing as an Ithorian, unfortunately. Oh man, imagine if you could be a Gamorrean.
Oh man.
I assume they probably gonna stick to human because it makes things easier for them, but it would be cool to add in the option. Bet.
So here's a question for you. What are they going to do with the two biggest parts of KOTOR? And of course, I mean Pazak and swoop bike racing.
I mean, if Pazak isn't in the game, it's not KOTOR.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars Blackjack is all it really comes down to, basically.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine it'll be in there, but how much more do you think they'll flesh it out?
I hope they give it fancy animations of the characters laying down the cards and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe it winds up as a sort of Gwent situation.
Yeah. What I wonder is if you can still cheat the system by saving and reloading.
Oh sure, yeah. It's save, bet the highest amount, play the game. You know what? I lost. Reload.
Yeah.
It would definitely be a way to cheat money. That was definitely a thing.
Yeah, that was definitely the go-to tactic to make money in the original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll probably fix that just because.
I imagine if you just give everyone a sort of quote-unquote invisible wallet where they can't lose more than a certain amount, that kind of fixes it right there.
Yeah. But I
just making it to where you can't save during portions of the certain portions of the game, or if they use an autosave feature, that's something that I.
Oh, they don't allow you to quick save. What are you even doing?
I would be interested to see if they go with direct saving still, where you manually save every time, or if it is an autosave system.
Most modern days have an autosave, so I kind of could see them do that.
I could see it going either way. Maybe for certain portions of the game, it's an autosave, and then for others, it's maybe right before huge choices in the game or huge key events, they let you hard save. Yeah. But for stuff where it's instead of being able to exploit the system and just gamble your money up to the maximum amount, you instead you're forced into your decision because it autosaves.
So you're saying betting all my money on one Pazak game isn't a big decision?
There's something that Pokemon did actually to get around this, and they've had this for a while. It's something that they've had in their system for quite a bit. There are certain specifically when it comes to online trading and battles, it forces you to save before you go in. But upon going into a trade or something, it also has a partial save system that happens while the trade or battle is going on. This is specifically implemented to stop people from duplicating items and Pokemon through using the trading system, because there was issues. I mean, it started with people yanking out their Game Boy Link cables, which just caused the game to freak out, and so you end up with 2 Charizards instead of a Charizard and a Squirtle, or this, that, or the other. It had many iterations, but they had like a multi-save system implemented. There was an iteration of Pokemon Emerald where you could exploit it to duplicate, but I won't get into that. But I imagine that, especially since other games tend to have something like that in prevalence to try to stop players from exploiting systems that break the game economy or gameplay in certain aspects. It's something that I would personally think we're going to see, at least in a very minimal regard.
Yeah. I will say that, like, I'm not a big fan of save scumming. On the other hand, it's kind of like a single player. What do you care? Yeah. But the one thing I will say is the biggest argument to have quick save is when the dialogue option you chose is not what comes out of the character's mouth the way you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, at least with fair. At least with KOTOR, it wasn't like a phrase meant to convey a whole paragraph. It was like, nah, the exact thing you clicked on was the exact thing that was said. The only thing that could maybe be missing is like some tone.
Yeah, because the protagonist wasn't voiced. So.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of other RPGs, and you got like your dialogue list or tree or circle or whatever, and it's like, yeah, this is what I want, and then they say it in a way that was completely the opposite of what you thought it was going to be. Yeah, and that's the point where I'm like, hold up, quick load.
Yeah, in that case, I really appreciate when developers actually give you like a little, like, in parentheses next to the option, they'll tell you like what the tone of voice or like what the intent, behind the phrase is. So like, they'll say, "Oh, I really enjoyed that," but in parentheses it says sarcasm. Like,
yeah,
I really hope that we see something
even
like
KOTOR
that.
had that a little bit, because you'd have like one version of like, yes, I will do that, and then right under that it would be, yes, I will do that, lie.
Yeah.
True.
That's normally the dark side option.
Which I don't know if there's actually a difference between the two of those. Maybe one of them, maybe the lying gave you dark side points or something. I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I hope that we see something like that, because that is definitely very, very frustrating thing when you think it's going to come out one way and instead you end up sounding like a complete and total jerk in the situation where you're trying to be nice or something like that.
This sounds empathetic. Sucker punch.
Yeah.
But what about swoop bike racing? We didn't talk about swoop bike racing yet.
Like, the fact that there are still so many pod racing Star Wars games gives me certainty that we're going to see swoop bike racing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely going to be in there in some capacity. It's going to be in there. But is it going to be anything more than a time trial drag race with a couple obstacles to dodge?
I feel like they probably want to have like the other races on the same track, like in real time.
That would be cool. Is to make it an actual race against other people instead of just a time trial thing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see it become kind of like a Mario Kart style, like mini game kind of thing or something. Where that'd be really cool, especially if it got its own whole line of like, you end up with like 100 different ways to customize yourself and how you race or whatever. Or like it randomizes who you're going against, or whatever. That would be so cool.
Like, swoop bike races in the first game, pretty lackluster, and some people hated them. Granted, only one of them was like required.
Yeah.
But then it was they kind of gave you this feeling of like, oh yeah, there's like all these circuits on all these different planets, but one was basically the same as the next, and they were pretty boring, if we're being frank.
Yeah, they were basically like Pazak, a money-making method, like, for the player character.
Just if you want a more like Twitch skill-based, woo, I dodged a thing and I hit a speed boost, rather than, gambling.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Which... Yeah, I mean, KOTOR 2 brought in additional Pazak cards. I don't think KOTOR changed. Wait, was swoop bike racing in KOTOR 2?
Yep, and it was super bugged, but...
It didn't really introduce anything new either. But yeah, I have to imagine we'll definitely see more cards than was in the first KOTOR, even if it's only, hey, let's bring over the types of cards that were in KOTOR 2, which was like you had like those gold cards that could be one number or another. What other cards were there? Because like the plus or minus flippy floppy one was in KOTOR 1. So yeah, like for anyone who doesn't already know, I alluded to it earlier. Pazak is basically Blackjack Star Wars. First difference being that you're only trying to get to 20 instead of 21 without going over. The other bit of it being, though, is that you start the game with a hand of 4 cards. You have a deck of... how big was your deck that you brought into the game? Like 12 cards? 10 or 12 cards?
It's 10, and then like you pull 4 from those 10.
Yeah, like you'd have a deck of 10 cards, but you draw 4 at the beginning, and those are the only cards you get for the whole game. And basically, yeah, like after a card goes, before your next card gets played out. If you want to, you can play one of your cards, and it could bring the number up, it could bring it down, and then like later KOTOR 2 add in things where it's like, normally if it's a tie, whatever. It's first to 3 wins, I believe, right?
Yeah.
First to 3. Yeah, But then there's like KOTOR 2 is like, oh yeah, you can get cards that are tiebreakers, where if you hit the same number, if you have this, then it's yours. Or you could get cards where it's like, oh, this one could be a 2 or a 4, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I feel like they definitely will want to have Pazak. I don't know if they gonna change any of the rules.
Yeah, I imagine they don't change the rules, except unless it's like adding more new kinds of cards.
Yeah.
Which, it's also kind of funny because if you really think about it, in universe, Pazak is totally a pay-to-win game.
Yeah.
Like, you can just straight up buy better cards.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I remember
It'd be
Pazak.
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I remember Pazak being of note in KOTOR 1, and actually, for a little bit of KOTOR 2, not to get too far off onto that, but there's an entire, like, call it, I don't remember if it was part of the main mission or if it was a side mission, but it was like an entire thing where you're kind of working your way through this exclusive Pazak club.
Yeah, the Pazak Den or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to beat the champ.
Yeah. But yeah, like, swoop racing, I remember it from KOTOR 1. I don't really remember much from KOTOR 2 at this point, though.
It was in KOTOR 2. I think it was bugged a lot, which is why a lot of people don't do it in KOTOR 2.
Sure.
I think it'd be interesting to see those 2 games, referring to Pazak and racing. I think it'd be interesting to see them incorporate some kind of like maybe as like a side download game or as like a in-game thing. Maybe you have like an online multiplayer kind of thing.
Kind of cool.
That would be
so
cool.
you can, yeah, you can play
side distraction.
Yeah.
TTV plays Pazak.
Woo! Most exciting game ever. It's basically blackjack.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool to see.
There weren't any other sort of like side mini games of that sort, were there? Besides swoop bike racing.
There's
and
like
Pazak?
the turret thing where you have to shoot down.
Sure, the turret sections. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe something with those.
Those honestly, I thought were just kind of annoying.
Yeah, those were annoying.
Didn't get much out of those. Although, yeah, do they introduce any degree of space combat in the remake?
That would be cool.
That'd be very cool.
I think it would depend on how they did it. Like, I think there's a right way they could implement, but I think there's also a lot of wrong ways they could implement it.
It's very.
I think step one is just don't do the turret segment.
Yeah, I feel like the turret segment. I feel like most people think it's kind of annoying. So, and I think that's the danger you have if you introduce like some kind of space combat. Like you don't want to have it be annoying
because you're just trying to travel from one place to the next, and then like, oh, mandatory turret segment.
Yep.
Random encounters.
Yeah.
It's literally what it was, basically.
I mean, I guess I wonder. It depends on if they make the turret segments more enjoyable somehow, or like an opt-in kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they rework it to where it's actually fun, and then make it to where it's an optional thing, so you can choose whether or not you want to or not, then
I
I feel like that'd be a smart play.
Yeah, how would you make that more fun though, without just turning it into a completely different thing?
Probably just turn into a completely different thing, to be honest.
But on the other hand, if you had a space combat thing, like maybe you're going around the Ebon Hawk and you're like manning different stations and that sort of thing, then maybe that's more cool.
If it kind of did like, classic Star Wars trilogy scene style, where you go first person and you're sitting in the gunner's chair and you get to see like the enemy stuff, or maybe even like asteroids or whatever, like go in front of your screen. That's kind of what they were going
for in the original segment, yeah.
Yeah, but like
maybe just
if it's that, but then like you take damage or whatever, you're like, oh no, and you got to get out and you got to go like repair some pipes or something, or like something like that. Like having it to go like you're manning these different stations instead of just.
And also having a crew man different stations.
Exactly. Cool. Or
like maybe
instead of you jumping around too, it could be like you just like kind of select your different crewmates, and by going to them, you're going to do their job for the encounter. So like one of them is like ship repairs. You take damage, you're working on repair, and the other one's navigation. So you're trying to like fly and navigate through this debris field, or the other one's operating the guns and.
Well, and even if maybe you give them some kind of bonus that affects the station they're at, like I could easily see them taking T3 and making it like a sort of, you get like an efficiency bonus. So, if he's on the guns, maybe they recharge faster. If he's, on repair duty, he can repair things faster. If he's on the ships, better boosting capabilities or something, or ships. Piloting.
They had something like that in the Star Wars The Old Republic Space Combat, where you could basically put together a crew, and depending on which companions you pick, they give you different boni.
That could be kind of neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's kind of like an entirely different sort of game system that you run the risk of making it something that's kind of bare bones and tacked on.
Yeah.
But then, or you could really flesh it out into something really fun. But then, if it's not if it's too different from the core gameplay, and there's people who don't want to engage with it, if it becomes mandatory, yeah.
That is a very fine line to tread. Like, how much are you willing to change, and are you willing to make it mandatory or opt in?
Yeah, unless there's like, and it'd have to be something you could do pretty early on in order to not alienate those people. But a way like, oh, maybe this is the combat route. Maybe there's something that's kind of somewhat equally fleshed out that's more of like a stealth route, where instead of trying to blow your way through a blockade, you're
that would be cool.
Circumventing it somehow.
It would be a cool idea, like, to combine the two ideas, to put, like, your crew together in different ways, and then you could either stealth or fight your way through the blockade.
And honestly, maybe that's it. It's just... Yeah. What crew you're prioritizing determines your approach method.
Yeah.
And that could play into two extra factors, too, of not just, like... Yeah, you could go with maybe they do a ship customization route where you're able to, like, completely change or alter or upgrade parts of the ship thanks to, like, side quests or something. Like, I can't remember. Is that something that's part of the original game already?
Side quests, definitely.
Like upgrading your ship as you go through the game.
The only thing you can do is poison the Gizka on your ship.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
The little frog thing.
But if you if it makes it to where maybe you stop by X planet and you do X side quest and you get a stealth drive for your ship, and it makes it to where instead of having to engage with this enemy that you end up encountering, your ship cloaks itself and you pass by without having to do a single encounter or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool to see too, but it just really depends on how much they're willing to change.
Yeah, it would depend on kind of what mechanics you're going to include in that too, because if your options are this entire fleshed out space combat system or the literally do nothing, that seems a little weird. I feel like you'd have to have something involved in the stealth piece. But then, maybe even take it a step further, and maybe you can also take the social approach where you try to talk your way through.
If your
That would be
charisma is
really
high
cool.
enough, you can fake the access code.
I think
Sir, they're hailing us.
It's like that scene with Han in A New Hope where he talks to the Imperial officer.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
It's
guys,
fine.
It's
It's
fine.
nothing here.
how are you?
How are you? Oh man.
Yeah, I honestly feel like if they're going to do anything in terms of like space combat, it would have to be trash this idea of just sitting in a turret and clicking pew pew and make an entirely fleshed out system, and just skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think I'd be okay with either of those directions.
Yeah, me too. Takuma, when you mentioned random encounters, I got reminded of something they definitely have to do in the remake. They have to have the iconic Lord Malak was very displeased when he heard you left Taris alive line.
Why do I not remember this?
There are like in a lot of planets, whenever you land, there are like these 3 Sith guys, and they show up and they always say this one line and start to attack you.
For some reason, that's escaping me right now, and I'm kind of upset about it.
it.
Yeah, I am
Hmm.
I am not remembering that at all. Maybe it's just been too long. Like, I played through the game all the way several times, but it's been a little while since I've actually done so. Actually, I think the last time I was playing, I was trying to do an all-ranged character build, just to see how it would work. It does no good to send me a German screenshot of these people. I don't know enough German words. Like, I know Danke, and I know Wasser and Wiener Schnitzel.
I know a little more than that, but
My German ancestors are rolling in their grave right now, I'm sure. Maybe I vaguely remember these guys. I don't know.
Okay.
Malik was most displeased when he learned he would escape Taris alive. He's promised a great reward to whoever destroys you.
I feel like there were also other people who could just randomly show up, though, all depending on where you were.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank. That might have been related to certain people's side quests that I'm thinking of, though.
I do think certain kinds of random encounters are definitely a staple for this genre of game in the first place, though. So if there aren't random encounters of any kind, I do think that would be a little sad.
Which, again, I think kind of goes back to how they handle the underlying mechanics and system as a whole. Because in KOTOR 1, there was a hard level cap of 20. KOTOR 2 technically had, I think, was uncapped.
Yeah,
but the maximum amount of XP you could make in the game, I think, was maybe level 30 if you really knew how to milk it. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So have we exhausted everything else other than story, which I guess we've technically touched on anyway as we kind of got along?
There's like one change we already know that sadly has to be coming because the voice actor for Candaris passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh, that's right.
So
I didn't
have to change
think about that.
And the voice actor for Master Vrook passed away this year. So they will have to do some voice changes.
Wait, Master Vrook, was he the kind of cranky old Jedi?
Yeah.
Okay. Him. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, still don't like him. Which I think was kind of the objective, was for him to be
he was supposed to be unlikable.
Man.
Thankfully, Impressionism is a very, very popular art nowadays in the voice acting industry, so I imagine that whoever we get to voice them will do a good job.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Bastila is going to be the same voice.
Yeah.
We can be relatively confident HK-47 will be. I imagine Cartho Nassi will be.
Yeah, most likely.
And the funny thing is, beyond that, I'm not actually familiar with too many of the voice actors for the other characters, or at least as far as crew is concerned.
I really hope they get the voice actor from Malik again.
Malik would be a big one.
Yeah, because his voice is pretty iconic and cool.
Who voiced Malik? I'm probably not gonna recognize him anyway.
Yeah,
but excuse me, Raphael Ferrer.
Apparently he's the cousin of George Clooney.
Really?
It's wild.
Interesting.
Has he voiced
George
anything
Clooney
else?
comes in to voice him instead.
Doesn't look like he's got the longest resume of voices.
Yeah, he's also in KOTOR 2, but that's...
I mean, he's just kind of reprising Malik, right?
Yeah.
Or, the thing I'm looking at just has them listed as additional voices. Which, there's kind of the other thing is, like, do we think it's kind of a given that if this really does well, we get a remake of KOTOR 2?
I think if it really, really does well, pretty sure we will. But
KOTOR 2 is
it's probably
very different beast from KOTOR 1.
Yeah, it's...
the
game is pretty similar, the gameplay, but the story is kind of a whole different deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do we want to touch on that a little bit, as long as
I think
we're here?
We could probably get into spoilers now, right? Because
yeah,
I know absolutely nothing about KOTOR 2, I will not lie.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
I've probably heard stuff through the grapevine, because I've got a lot of friends that have played them, but I have not played them, and I know nothing off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, KOTOR, the big twist in KOTOR 1 is definitely more of a thing than any twist in KOTOR 2. I won't say that KOTOR 2 doesn't have a twist.
Yeah.
It does, but it's definitely not of the same sort of word-shattering level. But, like, KOTOR 1, it's... like, when I think of KOTOR 1 versus KOTOR 2, like, I think KOTOR 1 is the one I like more, but KOTOR 2, I feel like I can objectively say is the better game. It's kind of weird. I think it largely comes down to story. Like, KOTOR 1 is definitely the very sort of straightforward, classic Star Wars, good versus bad kind of story. KOTOR 2 was made not by BioWare, but by Obsidian Entertainment. That story is much more nuanced, and the light side, dark side scale is definitely still a thing.
But it kind of like loses its its black and white thinking.
Yeah, it's not as black and white. In certain respects, you could maybe even think it maybe gets a little too navel-gazy. But yeah, it's a much different story. It's not your sort of classic high fantasy, good guys go to stop the bad guys thing. Yeah. It's much more gritty story. The characters have, darker histories. There's a lot of, more, I'll say, for lack of a better word, mature themes explored. I don't mean mature in the sense of like, kids should know, but like tackling heavier stuff.
It's more philosophical in a way. And I always say like KOTOR 1 is it's more like something you'd see in the Star Wars movies. It's your classic Star Wars adventure, while KOTOR 2 is like a Star Wars deconstruction story in a way. Yeah.
KOTOR 2 is maybe, I don't know, maybe you'd say it's closer to something if Christopher Nolan ever did a Star Wars movie.
Exactly.
Because like...
it's the gritty reboot.
Not to make it sound like this is like full-on goth hot topic levels of gritty or something like that. But yeah, I mean, like, there are some of your companions have much more like traumatizing pasts, and there's more, you get closer in the sort of moral quandaries of like, something closer to you consider like the trolley problem. And also like one of your companions from the beginning of the game is kind of no matter what you do, you're being criticized.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether what you're doing is something that's definitely light side or definitely dark side. And yeah, there's a lot of conversations you can have with her that's just a lot of like introspection and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like with KOTOR, it's really important to consider when these games came out. Because when the first KOTOR came out, that was before like Revenge of the Sith. So we didn't even like have established what a Sith really is and stuff like that. I think the KOTOR games introduced the Jedi and Sith code, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that might be true.
And KOTOR 2 like really pushes these things to the extreme. Like the Sith Lords in KOTOR 2 are really over the top. But it's super interesting.
Like, yeah, so I guess for those who don't know, it's introduced in KOTOR 1 is this idea of the Jedi Code and the Sith Code,
Yeah.
which is kind of meant to be their creed. And they're pretty short. I'm trying to see if there's like a really quick one I can find that I can read off of. Okay, sure. So yeah, like the Jedi Code is there's no emotion, there is peace, there is no ignorance, there is knowledge, there's no passion, there is serenity, there is no chaos, there is harmony, there is no death, there is the Force. And then the flip side of that, when you get to talking to some Sith people, is peace. It's basically the exact same. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall set me free. But yeah, like KOTOR 2, on the other hand, I feel like much more pushes the idea of the gray Jedi.
KOTOR 2 pushes the idea that both of those ideologies are like extremely flawed.
That too.
Which kind of like is true.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like there's dangers in extremes.
Yeah.
Which we got today's world we could make way too many comparisons that we just cannot get into.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Meanwhile,
Exactly.
the Jedi Code.
Meanwhile, the Jedi also
said the
deal in
guy who-
absolutes. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
This admittedly gets me thinking about other Star Wars titles that kind of followed in the footsteps of what KOTOR set up. Because I'm thinking specifically about The Force Unleashed. I know gameplay-wise it's a completely different animal for combat, but that did set up the choose your own choices and be your own character kind of thing that The Force Unleashed ended up doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I never actually completed The Force Unleashed.
I also
Started
never
it like 3
completed
times.
it. Yeah.
It's an interesting. I think that, especially if they're considering doing a KOTOR remake, I would argue that The Force Unleashed was just as popular for the time it came out. It's apparently 13 years old this month. Perhaps after this KOTOR remake, depending on how this does, we could see a wave of legacy Star Wars content remakes to either reincorporate into Star Wars canon or just give the modern audience an opportunity to experience these older stories.
I'll say
And to make money.
That too. I mean, yeah, it's Star Wars. It's all about the money.
It's a money project.
I'd say like The Force Unleashed is pretty hard to incorporate into current Star Wars canon.
It is definitely hard. So they could still just spin it as like an alternate universe or like Legends Tale or something.
Yeah.
But it is still a very potent and popular side story.
It's still a really popular Star Wars game. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, did we cover pretty much everything at this point?
I think we
We
We never actually did touch on spoilers, but I don't know what there is to say. Like, if you know, you know.
Go play the game, and then get the remake if you want to.
Yeah, honestly.
I'm probably gonna go play the game. Maybe not tonight, but later this weekend or something. Because
sometime, but
talking about it now, it's getting me excited to want to look into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to re-explore and probably get lost again.
I mean, do we have even a ballpark of when it's due to come out? I don't think we do.
We don't
The
have
remake.
like any official info. I'd assume
Fair.
it's probably
Just
quite a
yeah,
while
we're doing it.
off. I'd say like maybe 2025 or something.
Ooh, I hope it's not that far out. Unless it's going to be bad, in which case, by all means, I'll wait all I want. I have to imagine if they've announced at this point, typical game development. I don't know, I'd guess 3 years, or I guess that would put us in 2025, wouldn't it? I forgot what year it was. Okay, never mind. You're right.
I mean 2025 might be a bit much, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it all depends on how much they've got done.
Yeah,
thus far.
I think it's still a couple of years off, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my money on 2024.
It would be really nice if they did it 2023 for the 20th anniversary.
They will announce it.
They
will make an announcement that'll be in 2023, and it will get delayed. Like everything does.
Maybe.
Crazy state of the world.
Mm-hmm. But at least there's good Star Wars out there.
Yeah.
True.
Hopefully.
Very true.
And we won't talk about the bad Star Wars. Cool. All right. Well, I think that probably about wraps this up. So, yeah. Do we think there's going to be more TTV talks in the near future?
I don't know.
I would be very intrigued to see them come back in any capacity. I imagine with the Halo Infinite PvP preview this weekend, there's going to be quite a few people in this roster that are going to be giving that a go, myself included. And I know for a fact that a lot of people wanted to talk about it last time it came around and did not have the chance to. So I imagine there will be a return for something related to it.
We may be pioneering a revival.
That would be absolutely wonderful.
The TTV Talks remake.
There you go. Now with better graphics.
Man.
All right.
I'm in 4K. Right.
Whoa. All right, thanks everybody for listening. I think there's usually some plugs that we give at the end here about like message boards and subscribing and liking and all that other rubbish. I'm not usually the one who does that, so I don't know what's supposed to go here. So, yeah.
Check out the message boards at board.ttvchannel.com to meet some cool fellow LEGO fans, if that's what you're into, even though we talked about Star Wars today. I'm sure that there's topics discussing stuff like Star Wars on the boards as well. Yep. It's a really cool place. I met some really awesome people there, and look where I am now. On top of that, we have various forms of social media. There's a Twitter page for us you can follow at the TTV channel. It hasn't been very active recently, but I imagine if we got active again, then that will be active as well. And aside from that, if you like content like this, like, subscribe. We even have a Patreon if you want to support us in that way too. We're just $1 a month, lets you play Minecraft that's modded to look like it's Bionicle, and it's wonderful. That's about all I could think of.
All right. Well, I'm glad we brought you along, because that's about 10 times what I could remember.
Not the most graceful plugs. I know that LJ's probably like cringing into his... like curling into a ball with severe disappointment after hearing that. But
it's LJ. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate you coming by. Catch you later. I'm Takuma.
I'm Starbreaker.
And I'm Sokoda.
We'll see you next time.
Mardi Gras.